Welcome to another edition of the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge, your radio home for all things outdoor across northeastern Vermont and northern New Hampshire. I'm your host, Joshua Smith, and we've got a great show for you this evening. I'll be sitting down with local bear expert Butch Spear. He tracks bears, studies their habits, and has tips for every gardener, hiker, and homeowner who want to hear everything about it this time of year. Plus, later in the show, we'll hear from Gary Moore with his thoughts on the outdoors, and Mark Breen has your Outdoor Edge weekend forecast to help you plan your weekend in the woods. You're listening to WYKR, live, local, and always outdoors. All right, welcome to our another edition of the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge, and I have a special guest here in the studio, Butch Spear. Butch, how you doing?
Good, Joshua. How about yourself?
Doing all right. So this is exciting. So we just talked about September is bear hunting season. And so this is, people are out there looking for bears, having fun with bears. But you seem to be our regional expert when it comes to all things bears.
Well, I don't know as I'm an expert, but I have learned a lot of things in the last 22 years. Number one way I learned a lot was talking to Ben Killam over in Lyme, New Hampshire. But anyways, I am a hunter. I do harvest a bear, usually every year. I love bear meat, so I'm going to put it in my freezer. If that offends anybody, I apologize. But it saves the bill of trying to feed ourselves for the winter.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
So, but I do, with my hunting part of it, it's with hounds, and we have to know what the bears are thinking most of the time in order to be able to harvest one.
Right. So what makes kind of like our local bear population unique compared to other areas?
Well, number one, there are our bears. Number two, there's quite a few more, but all of New England in the last 2 or 3 years has grown in numbers in bears. It is natural for them to be growing, having more numbers. Food is good for them. If a female goes to bed hibernating with a full belly, she's apt to have 2 or 3 cubs instead of 1 or 2. There sometimes are as many as 4 cubs born. It all depends on the feed, and they sleep the winter away, and then they get up in the morning or in the spring and hungry and start eating.
Right. And so you think there's probably more black bears now than there were like 20 years ago?
Before, a couple days ago, I called the bear biologist for Fish and Wildlife and got some numbers. And 21 years ago, when I started running bears, they were talking about 1,500 to 2,000 bears in the state of Vermont.
Wow.
Last year, they said there's between 7,000 and 8,000 bears in the state of Vermont.
So it's almost like quadrupled the population.
Quadrupled in 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So there are plenty of bears. When I started running dogs, my first 3 years, I saw 5 bears total. All right. I see 5 bears a week now.
Wow. So
there are more bears around.
Right. And so let's kind of talk a little bit about kind of like bear behavior and some seasonal patterns. You kind of mentioned about pre-hibernation and when they come back out in the spring. What are bears typically doing right now in late summer here?
22 hours a day they're eating.
Really?
Yeah. They eat and eat and eat. They want to put on as much fat as they can so that they don't fade away to nothing while they're sleeping. I've seen bears with as much as 6 inches of fat on their back. So they eat well, but they eat from sunup. Actually, they're typically night dwellers. They'll be out eating in a cornfield, and they'll eat all night long. They may take a nap. They may sleep in it all day long. And while they're out there, they hammer the corn wicked. The farmers, I feel sorry for them. One guy told me 3 years ago when I did a meeting that he loses at least $30,000 a year on damage from bears in his cornfields. Now, that's got to hurt. So he's one of the people that want every bear taken care of.
Right.
And we're not going to do that.
Right.
And but bears, they'll eat this time of year. The berries are just about gone. The apples are coming in big time. Acorns, beech nuts, they love them. I've had a few people talk with me about it, that there's plenty of meat in the acorns this year. So the bears will be back in the woods they may not come to the cornfields. But they have learned over the few years, 15, 20 years, that corn is good, and it's right there. They go in there and make a hole and lay down and eat. So, but number one thing bears are doing right now is eating.
Right.
And that's basically the only two things on their minds in their lives is eating and a boyfriend or girlfriend. And that's it.
Right.
And the boyfriend, girlfriend thing is for a month and a half in the spring, and then they forget about that.
Yeah.
So they basically live to eat. Yep.
And so, because you mentioned that, so this is bears seem to be a big issue for farmers. It's for our listeners that are gardeners. They kind of leave gardening alone?
Depending on what you're raising. I mean, I've had a bear go through. My wife has had a bear go through her garden, and I've got 12 dogs right there.
Right.
And it didn't stay long, but you could see where it did sample some of the vegetables. And so it depends on what the food source is back in the woods, whether or not they'll bother humans a lot. The number one thing they love is bird food. And people that think they need to feed the birds year-round, they don't. They didn't back before we did bear hunting, so they don't need to now.
Right.
And there are actually laws that pertain to feeding of birds. They aren't pursued by the wardens as much as some of us would like it to be, but then I don't want them after me on some of the things neither. So, but if you have problems with a bird feeder getting smashed up, it's not the chickadees that did it.
Right.
It is probably a bear. And if you don't want to keep buying a bird feeder, don't feed the bear.
Yeah, and I know, the state of Vermont and New Hampshire put out these PSAs that mentioned, when to take down your bird feeders.
Yeah.
And that's usually like February, March.
By the 1st of April, you should have it down.
Right.
Because the bears are coming out, they are hungry, and they remember where they had thistleweed or sunflower seeds or whatever feeder you're using, and they remember where it was. Yeah. And when a female comes out with 2 or 3 cubs, and after she has taught them how to climb a tree and do things for safety, they start wandering quite a little bit, and they learn where mom ate last year. And they'll teach their kids next year.
And you're talking around the subject, but one point that you're kind of pressing on is bears are incredibly smart creatures.
They are very intelligent.
Yeah. They
can remember. They are very strong. You take a 100-pound bear, he'll beat the devil out of you and I and not even flinch. And they can take a 20-yard dumpster and tip it bottom side up just to get a dirty diaper that's in there.
Right.
And they are basically all muscle.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So you kind of talked about what bears eat most of the time of the year. And what kind of range do they usually cover in the area?
Typically, a female with cubs is an 8-mile radius.
Okay.
That's her hometown, home. Yeah. A male bear, he goes where he wants to, or where a bigger bear pushes him. Because with the male bears, the big bear is the boss.
Yeah, and so talking about some like human-bear interactions, what would you say attracts bears into people's yards or near their homes?
Food. It's not the food we're going to eat, but it's food to them. I mean, like I say, they love dirty diapers. That ain't food.
Yeah.
You know? But any vegetable, any fruit, of course, sweet things, candy and stuff, bird feed, anything that's free. If you could get a free dinner at P&H every night, you'd probably go there every night.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what they do. They find where people are constantly supplying their food. Even though we don't think it's food, we think it might be garbage. You're just throwing it out the back door. That's great. He'll pick it up and eat. No problem.
Yeah.
And, you can't blame the bear for being hungry because he wants to live.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you see any more issues with composting, or is it just the fact that we're getting more trash that we're leaving on the curb? Or
I didn't really study composting a lot, but I do know if it's done properly, you shouldn't have wild animals there.
Right.
If you're not doing it properly, they're going to come in and get free food.
Right.
So, like again, I said, it's circling around the food part of it, and if that you can make it not be food, great. But a bear can smell food miles away.
Yeah.
And if they go into a cornfield, they sit there and they eat and eat and eat until they supposedly puke, but it's not. It's going through the other end quicker than they can digest. So when they walk around, they don't care where they step. They may step in it, and then they walk off up on a hill or whatever, and another bear crosses their scent, which is the scent of the corn, and follows them back into the cornfield.
Okay.
That's how they teach each other where food is.
Right.
That's how they talk to each other.
And so you did mention about your wife with the gardens. Is there other best practices for protecting gardens from bears?
Best way to protect anything from bears is put electric fence around it.
Okay.
4 to 5 strands, keep it good and hot. When you get it constructed, bait it, put a couple strips of bacon around it or a tin foil with some peanut butter, and entice the bear, because they will smell it and they'll test it with their tongue.
Okay.
And when they get zapped on their tongue, they don't like it. They usually take off.
Okay.
If it's not hard enough to really get their attention, they'll come back. Just make sure your fencer is working and it's good and hot. And after the second or third time, they won't be back.
Okay. And what about like chicken coops and beehives?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay.
Fence them in.
Okay.
Like I say, 4 to 5 strands, one right down close to the ground and one up through, and have it so that they're not climbing a fence post or a tree to get over, because they're smart enough to climb up the outside and climb in the inside and stretch their belly over the fence and not get zapped.
Okay.
So, but construct it good and keep it hot, and you've taken care of your bear problem.
All right. So don't go anywhere. After the break, we'll be back with local bear expert Butch Spear, who's got more incredible insights into late summer bear behavior, backyard visits, and what you should be doing right now to stay safe and bear smart.
It's a St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
Pumpkins glow and fires crack. Time to fix what summer lacked. Doors repaired and rooms renewed. Porches made for family food. Bachelor's crew knows what to do. Craftsmanship honest, strong, and true. Start your project, big or small, vtcarpenter.com this fall.
Your website isn't working for you. Hi, this is Jay Davis, co-founder of Northeast Kingdom Online. I'm sure you've seen us online already. We've created hundreds of websites for companies just like yours. If you're ready to stand out on the internet, it's time to join forces with Northeast Kingdom Online, Northern New England's premier website design company. From security to mobile responsiveness, we handle it all. Let's make your website as unique as your business. Visit us at northeastkingdomonline.com and let's get started. Achieve more with northeastkingdomonline.com.
It's the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
The Autosaver Group St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram asks, do your outdoor adventures take you to where you wish you had a four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive? At St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, explore their vast inventory of adventure-savvy four-wheel drives and all-wheel drive vehicles ready for you to drive at home. Plus, every St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram deal includes the Big Deal Plus, which is a 2-year unlimited scheduled maintenance plan, which includes free state inspections for life. Stop in today in St. Johnsbury, Vermont, or shop St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram online at stjohnsburycdjr.com.
All right, we're back, and we're talking to Butch Spear, who's our local bear expert. And before the break, we were mentioning he was filling us in on some questions on, human-bear interactions, bear behavior and seasonal patterns. And now, Butch, we'll talk a little bit about tracking. What are the signs that a bear's been on your property?
Well, depending on what your soil is, if it's soft enough that a dog will leave a print, a bear will. If you see something out there that looks like your hand put down in sand, it's probably a bear. You weren't walking around on your hands. And depending on the size, there's little tiny ones for little tiny bears, and then there's big ones for the big bears. And my hand is pretty good size. I've had bear paws that were a lot bigger than that.
Wow.
And that was a good sized bear. So if you happen to see them and you feel like tracking them, you can somewhat, but bears have a very sensitive nose. They're not blind like some humans think they are. They can see and they can hear well. So most hunters that say I'm a bear hunter don't actually shoot a lot of bears because they just got to wiggle just a little bit or smell different, whatever, and a bear can pick you up. And before you see them, they're gone. And a lot of guys sit on the edge of cornfields and wait. It's not recommended to shoot a female bear, especially if you see cubs, because the cubs first year probably won't make it through the winter. So when you're sitting on the edge of a cornfield, you've got 6 feet from the edge of the woods to the first row of corn. How long will it take anybody or anything to take those few steps to get in the corn out of the cornfield? Not long. You've got 2 seconds.
Right.
Especially if you're in a hurry. So you get a lot of people that see black, bang, they shot it. They get down there, whoops. That's why I hunt with hounds. I've had 30 bears in a tree this year already, and we could tell what every one of them was, male or female, because we can take the time, we can look at their back end, and there's parts back there that aren't the same on a male and a female. And so yes, we would during training season, yes, we would kill that one possibly, but we don't during training season. And it is now kill season. As of 1st of September, I've had 4 bears off the ground. We did not shoot any one of the 4. So when I shoot one this year, it's going to be 350 pounds or bigger.
And you mentioned training season. What's that?
That is when we can go out and chase bears with a permit, with our hounds, but we can't kill. Yeah, it's just for training pups, young dogs, how to chase a bear.
Right.
And you put somebody young in with an old guy, the old guy does stuff, and the young guy's watching, he learns. Or they used to.
Well, and you mentioned too before we were on the air is like, bear hounding is the most humane way to deal with bears.
It is. I can chase a bear and chase it up a tree. It does. Dog might bite it in the butt to make it go up the tree. There's no blood.
Right.
There's no big no problems. Last 3 years, I haven't had a stitch from a veterinarian on any of my dogs. And my dogs are pretty good. They do a good job. And like I say, I've already got 30 that I can take credit for that we could have killed.
Mm-hmm.
And none of my dogs have been hurt.
Right.
So the bear isn't hurt. It might be a little bit tired. That's why it finally decided to jump a tree.
Yeah.
But it's not hurt. We can tell if it was a male or a female. We can tell if it's a female that has cubs. We look at her faucets, and if they're being used, we know that she's got kids.
Yeah.
And we track, and like today, we had 4 hours on a bear that my dogs ended up over in New Hampshire. One of my dogs. He's my second best one.
Yeah.
And he crossed 4 different roads. One of them was 302. And luckily he didn't get run over.
Right.
Now, some people are going to say I didn't have control of my dogs. Well, legally I did.
Yeah.
I had tracking devices on them. I knew where they were. I just couldn't get there fast enough without breaking all land speed records and everything else and having people screaming at me because I'm driving too fast or whatever. I got there as soon as I could. Well, a nice guy thought the dog was lost. He came out on the bike trail up here in Groton,
Yeah.
halfway between Groton and Reigate, and he saw this dog come out. Well, there are some people who would have said that dog was going to hurt him because ferocious bear dogs, they'll chew your arm off. And he stopped, and the dog come up to him. He patted him and everything, and he wondered where. He said he hollered once or twice, see if anybody was around. And he said, well, I got to go. So he started pedaling. When he got to his car, my dog was still right behind him. He opened the door, and the dog jumped in and laid down on the seat. Well, I legally have to have name tags and stuff on the bear, so he called my house. My wife called me with his address and phone number and name, and we went over in Bath and picked up my dog.
Yeah.
And I says, weren't you kind of afraid to touch that hound? You figured he knew it was a bear hound.
Right.
He says, no. I says, well, it's been said that they'll chew your arm off. He says, that dog wouldn't chew on anybody. And it's the first time he'd ever seen him.
Right.
And
yeah.
I wouldn't have a dog
Right.
that you have to worry about
Right.
around a human. That would be stupid of me because I would be setting myself up for a lawsuit.
Right.
So all my dogs, my kids, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren pet my dogs.
And is there what should someone do if they see a bear in their yard?
Make some noise. If you get a dog, let the dog bark at them. A lot of people say, I'm going to shoot it. Have said, I shot him in the butt with birdshot. Well, that's a stupid thing to do because you just made a bad situation worse. You had a bear coming in. He was a little bit of a nuisance. Now you've got a injured, mean, ugly bear coming in.
Right.
Because that birdshot's going to go in there and fester. And I at times cut up quite a few people's wild game. And I've had many a bear come in with gangrene. So all you did was, you may have chased him away because it hurt so bad, but now he's festering up, getting sick, and going to die.
Yeah.
So make noise, try to chase him away. The best way to do it, depending on location, like right here, 302, I wouldn't come in your backyard right here and try to chase bears because 302's here.
Right.
My dogs I value as much as I do my kids. They do a super job because they were trained, and I'm not going to make it so that they get run over by a car or, whatever.
Right.
So we try to play out in the woods, and sometimes we're asked to chase the bears out of the woods because there's a house built right there, and they don't want the bear around their house. Well, us humans are building our houses in their bedroom. So you need to understand they still have their rights, but we still got to educate them to keep people alive too.
Right. All right, we're going to take another quick break, and still ahead, Gary Moore is back with his thoughts on the outdoors, from wise woodsman tips to late summer reflections. It's the kind of outdoor wisdom only Gary can deliver.
It's a St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
You don't have to go far to find some fishing fun in Vermont, and this beloved summer pastime offers many benefits. Spend time with family and friends, explore new places, enjoy the outdoors, and maybe even catch some dinner. The Vermont Fish and Wildlife website offers resources to help. You can watch fishing videos to learn how, register for a free fishing clinic, or find a public access area near you at vtfishandwildlife.com. Vermont Fish and Wildlife invites you to fish Vermont.
Good evening. Welcome to Thoughts on the Outdoors. Although nesting season is over, there's something been intriguing me this summer as I've been driving up and down 91 between Bradford and White River. Those are nesting platforms that the Green Mountain Power erected where their power lines, the transmission lines, cross 91. One of them is right at the Fairleigh Bradford town line. That one was really visible southbound, as it was just about eye level. It was in the median. However, when they shut down the interstate there to clean up the ledges, we lost the sight of that one. Going northbound, it's a little difficult to see. You had to look up. But I watched the nesting birds there most of the summer. The other one that I've been watching, which you probably have noticed, is you're headed northbound, you cross the Norwich-Thetford line. On the right, just over the interstate fence, is another nesting platform right next to the power line. As you know, the birds like to nest on power lines. The big osprey, eagles, etc., some of the hawks. The problem is, when they do, they stand a chance of, one, getting electrocuted, or two, causing a power outage. Those of us in this area for years have watched the nest as you head up through Route 302 towards Bath, where the High Line crosses over. I don't know about you, but I can't drive by it without looking up to see what's in the nest. Anyways, the power companies do everything they can to avoid it, and the best way to do that is to build alternate nesting sites close to the towers. I was checking on the two that I'd seen this summer, so I contacted John Gabeil, who's the wildlife biologist with Vermont Fish and Wildlife, asked him about them, if the power company had putting them in, and he said definitely. There are several along the Connecticut River from Brattleboro to Wilder Dam, more so, however, along Route 5 than 91. Osprey are big water birds, so the Connecticut River's the attractant for them. Route 5 is also closer to the Connecticut River. Velco and GMP, Velco being the company that primarily does the transmission of power in the state, and Green Mountain Power, the largest power company, not only does it some district transmission, but definitely all the distribution. They've been putting them up for a long time now, but these two down along 91 appeared this year, and certainly they've been a lot of interest to many of us. Richard Gabeil said that originally the Fish and Game was involved in putting them up, but since the 90s to around 2015, they helped put up a lot. But since then, they've been training the power companies on how to do it, as well as the legal issues involved around raptor management and the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. Now most of them have their own federal permits and are doing the work largely without us, but we still get requests occasionally for technical assistance. Thanks for asking, he said. Well, if you haven't noticed them, take a look. There are no birds in them now. They've long since hatched and left off, but look for next spring. While I'm talking about birds, let's talk about loons, a bird that so many of us feel so strongly about. There's been a difference in success in the two states this year. The Vermont Center for Eco-Studies, which monitors the birds in Vermont, reports that their statewide Vermont one-day loon count on July 19th that volunteers counted 416 adults and 104 chicks on 171 bodies of water. They described the count as a very big record high. This season, 115 nests were documented, 3 of which were new loon pairs. According to the report, 92 of those nests were successful, which is a record high. The 136 chicks hatched was also a record. Now, across the river, the news was not so good in New Hampshire. According to the preliminary results I received, New Hampshire loon census numbers are down statewide, while the total number of loons appears strong at 541, with an additional 109 loon chicks, it's a decrease from prior years. Mixed results on both sides. Just remember, there was a time we rarely saw a loon. Thanks to a lot of efforts to protect them, to eliminate DDT, to eliminate lead sinkers, and to have people pick up their monofilament, we are seeing a resurge of loons throughout the 3 northern New England seats, and are certainly thrilled by their haunting calls at night. Moving on, Vermont's bear hunting season started Monday, September 1st, Labor Day. The Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department reminds hunters that the sale of bear paws and internal organs of bears is illegal. Vermont State Game Wardens have investigated cases where people from out of state have approached Vermont hunters to purchase bear paws and gallbladders, which are valuable in Asian countries, said Fish and Wildlife Commissioner Jason Batchelor. Until the law was changed last year, Vermont was one of the few states that still allowed the sale of bear paws and gallbladders that are resold on the black market. However, the meat of bear, deer, or moose may be sold within Vermont during the open hunting season for 20 days after the season ends. The meat may not be bought or sold to be transported out of state, however. A person may buy or sell the head, hide, hoofs, and antlers of legally taken deer or moose, and the head and hide of legally taken black bears at any time. Prior to this little segment of the show tonight, renowned local bear hunter Butch Spear has been on talking about bear hunting. I'm sure he'll have something to say about that, and he will come back on a little later. Also in Vermont, like New Hampshire, a lot of hunting seasons are opened or just about to. Vermont's resident Canada goose hunting season will be held September 1st through September 25th to help control Vermont's resident Canada goose population prior to the arrival of Canada geese migrating south from Canada, according to the Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department. The season will be open statewide with a daily bag limit of 5 Canada geese in the Connecticut River and 8 in the rest of Vermont. By the way, I don't know about you, but I've been hearing them and seeing the flocks lift off and set down in the valley for several days now. And coming up here to the station tonight, there was a flock of Canada geese floating in the mill pond down behind the dam, obviously getting ready to migrate. The season for these resident geese is for the ones that don't migrate. In some cases, there's far too many of them, and hunters and farmers are losing crops to them. That's the reason for the resident season. By the way, if you noticed at the post offices lately, the last week or so, there have been signs up saying that you can get your federal waterfowl guides there. They're free. You can also get them anywhere where hunting and fishing licenses are sold. Also in Vermont, open the gray squirrel season. That opens Labor Day, as did the season for hare or rabbit. And while I'm on the topic, we all talk about going rabbit hunting, but mostly we're going hare hunting. The snowshoe hare is the critter that inhabits most of our woods. A rabbit is actually primarily in the very low river valleys and so forth. They're not a big woods animal. We say we're hunting rabbit, we're hunting hare. Over across the river in New Hampshire, Labor Day was also the opening for several seasons. Black bear, I haven't talked to Butch for a while about does he hunt in New Hampshire, but I'm sure he'll have something to say about that. The gray squirrel season also opened over there. If you're a bow hunter, archery season for white-tailed deer and for turkey opens up on September 15th in New Hampshire. While we're moving on, the highlights of New Hampshire's hunting seasons can be found in the New Hampshire Hunting and Trapping Guide, which includes hunting seasons, dates, bag limits, check station locations, and more. You can get them at any place they sell fishing game licenses in New Hampshire or at the regional offices. One thing New Hampshire would like to remind people are that hunters are now required to register fur bearers taken by hunting using an online registration report. Fur bearers with a hunting season include coyote, fisher, raccoon, red fox, gray fox, opossum, mink, weasel, skunk, and muskrat. Registration is now required only for fur bearers taken by hunting and does not include animals taken by trapping, wildlife control operators, or any other means of take. In addition to online registration, all fisher harvests must be sealed and the lower jaw must be submitted at the time of sealing. Fur bearer hunting seasons in New Hampshire also open Labor Day for red fox and gray fox, opossum, skunk, raccoon, and mink, muskrat, and weasel. Seasons opening October 15th or November 1st, depending on the Wildlife Management Unit. The hunting season for fisher opens December 1st. Coyotes, of course, may be hunting year-round. So, a lot of opportunities. By the way, one thing that New Hampshire, like Vermont, like many states, is asking hunters not to use natural urine-based deer lures this year. The products can potentially spread chronic wasting disease, a neurological disorder that is almost always fatal to deer and moose. Synthetic lures are what you should use. Getting back to Vermont, one of the problems, or an issue that all ethical hunters are concerned about, is wounding game. That's why we urge hunters to not take any shot, to take only the good shots. But if you do, and you wound an animal, you want to recover it. Vermont has, thanks to a lot of volunteers, has a certified leash tracking dog program where they can come out and help you find your wounded deer, bear, or moose. It's volunteers. These tracking dog owners provide their service free of charge. But in order to be certified, they must pass an extensive exam in order to be certified and licensed to provide that service. The list can be found on the Fish and Game website, Fish and Wildlife in Vermont. If you find yourself in that situation, don't be afraid to call. I've printed the list in my newspaper column this past week. I would urge you to cut out the list of those in the local area. So if you find yourself you need one this fall, you've got easy access. With that, last thing I want to say is last week I mentioned my wife and I went to the Randolph and the Chandler Center for the Arts to see the exhibit, Jim Sardonis' Natural Forms. Likely you've seen the whale's tails, those giant sculptures along 89 in South Burlington. Those are the ones that used to be just off the exit in Randolph. But when the owner ran into financial problems, they got sold and moved to South Burlington. They were so popular that the people from Randolph raised money and convinced Jim Sardonis to make another pair to put back where the originals had been. This other pair is not made from granite, it's made from bronze, and looks a little bit different in that because of the bronze as opposed to the stone, he was able to make the tails curve a little bit more. The reason that Linda and I went to Randolph, to the Chandler, was we wanted to see hearts and hands. You've made several of the media have done pictures or had pictures and talked about hearts and hands. That's was commissioned by an anonymous donor for the University of Vermont Medical Center in Burlington to honor pandemic healthcare workers. If you remember what it looks like, 2 life-size bronze figures, obviously healthcare workers, nurses, are on benches spread apart. When they put their hands together, the hands form a heart. Very, very moving pieces. As a result of that, 2 other hospitals are now going to receive duplicates of the sculpture, and one of those is on display at the Chandler. If you want to see them and the other creations of Jim Sardonis, from the earliest he did right up until the latest, head to Randolph for the Chandler, and the the exhibit ends September 13th, so you don't have long to wait if you want to see it, but I urge you to do so. With that, my time is up. Be safe. Enjoy the fall. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right. Yeah, that was Gary Moore's thoughts on the outdoors. Butch, he mentioned your name a few times.
Yeah, and it was polite, too.
That was interesting. I didn't know about that point about some state laws about bear hunting where you're not allowed to sell certain parts of them.
Yeah, they changed that last year, and hey, it's okay. We changed our law because a lot of outsiders were coming in and buying stuff. It wasn't people here selling on the black market or nothing. It was other people buying it, and then they're doing whatever. So,
right.
Yep.
You kind of mentioned that, talking about the state laws and stuff. How is New Hampshire and Vermont kind of managing bear populations now?
Well, basically the same, except parts of New Hampshire has a 2 bear limit now instead of 1. Vermont is strictly just 1 bear per tag on your license. So hopefully they don't change it too much. I like the fact that there's about 8,000 bears here in the state now, because we go out hunting and it's nice to see a bear a day or every other day, instead of like 20 years ago you wouldn't see 10 bear all season. So I like the numbers. I don't really know what they are, but I know we have a lot of fun. And if we're lucky, we do put some meat in the freezer and don't have to buy it at the store.
Right. We're talking about how, bear hounding is the most humane way to deal with bears. Other than that, are nuisance bears ever relocated?
I don't know how to say this without maybe getting myself in trouble, but I know of bears that were trapped, moved from where they were, and euthanized. I asked questions. I work a lot or talk a lot with the local game wardens and our new commissioner. I talk to them a lot, and they don't like relocating a bear, because you're just taking a bad situation and putting it behind somebody else's house.
Right.
You've got the same situation, just different location.
Right.
And after the second or third time they've warned this bear, they end up putting it to sleep.
Right.
And so I'm not going to say they don't, but I'm saying they don't do it too often.
Right. I mean, like you said too, is as bear hunting, that is the most humane way to deal with bears, because bears don't like dogs.
Right.
And if they see dogs, they'll stay away from that area.
Correct.
Yeah. So how can folks report bear sightings or incidents?
They can go online. There's many places online, Fish and Wildlife, that you can. Everybody and their brother runs a computer except for me, and I still use a telephone. But go on Fish and Wildlife, VermontFishandWildlife.com, and you can find anything you want to know about bears or deer or whatever in there.
Okay. All right. Coming up after this break, Mark Breen from the Fairbanks Museum has your Outdoor Edge weekend forecast. What's in store for your next hike, hunt, or harvest? Stay tuned, and after that, we'll wrap up our conversation with Butch Spear.
It's the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
Hi, this is Jay Davis, co-founder of NortheastKingdomOnline.com. As Northern New England's leading digital marketing agency, we will help your business harness the power of SEO, social media, and beyond to enhance your online presence. Your customers are looking for you. Work with our team of marketers to build a complete online marketing strategy. Visit northeastkingdomonline.com to see how we can heighten your brand. Achieve more with northeastkingdomonline.com.
I'm Mark Breen. Welcome to the Outdoor Edge forecast. September has arrived with our very dry to drought-like conditions persisting. That pattern doesn't show any signs of changing in the near future, and that should be a consideration for your outdoor plans. Dry vegetation on any breezy, sunny afternoon could easily ignite, and any resulting fire could then spread quickly and get out of control. We're at that transition point of year. Summer activities continue, but the days are much shorter. We've lost more than 2 hours of daylight, and the sun sets about 2 minutes earlier each day, while the sunrise is delayed by a similar amount. The sun will be setting near 7:15 this weekend and 7 o'clock by next weekend, while the sunrise is close to 6:20 this weekend and 6:30 by next. The broad picture features some cooler air settling in behind some upcoming periods of rain, but dry weather will follow through much of the rest of the month. A wild card in that would be a tropical storm, which could disrupt or even change the weather pattern. Otherwise, some warmer weather is due to return for the last 10 days of September, perhaps into early October. That and the dry weather will likely affect the foliage, but the predictability of changing leaves continues to elude forecasters, so well, you'll have to enjoy it for what it is. The upcoming weekend features one cold front moving through tonight with a period of showers, then briefly clearing before a second front swings in on Saturday, that with a better chance of showers. Much cooler air follows with any showers or clouds on Sunday, giving way to some clearing, partly sunny and cool weather to open up next week. Now the forecast details. Becoming cloudy, a rising chance of evening showers likely after midnight, lows in the 50s, gusty winds will diminish. Friday, early showers in New Hampshire ending, becoming sunny, a stray afternoon shower in New Hampshire, highs in the 70s, continued breezy from the southwest. Friday night, mainly clear in the evening, then increasing clouds, mild, upper 50s and low 60s. Saturday, thickening clouds, showers developing in the morning, occasional rain and showers through the afternoon. Still mild, highs in the 70s. Saturday night, evening showers tapering off, still mostly cloudy, 50 to 55, and for Sunday, a stray morning shower, mainly in New Hampshire, then clouds giving way to increasing sun, cooler, highs 60s to near 70. That's your Outdoor Edge forecast. I'm Fairbanks Museum meteorologist Mark Breen. Good luck and enjoy our great outdoors.
So, Butch, you just mentioned, while we're listening to the weather, that dry weather is bad for tracking?
Well, it's hard. It doesn't hold the scent as easy as a moist.
Right.
A nice dewy morning or a nice frosty morning. Mm-hmm. That's my favorite. But it holds the scent better for the dogs. But a good dog is a good dog. So.
Right. So what would you say to someone, just to wrap up our hour? I guess my last question for you is, what would you say to someone who wants to learn more about bears?
Well, number one, if you just want to know about it, not want to get into the hunting part of it, go see Ben Killam over in Lyme, New Hampshire. He's an awesome person. I consider myself a friend of his. I've held some of his cubs, and it's just a thrill. And then I could sit down and listen to him all day long when he starts talking about the bears and what they do and how they live and everything else. So that would be one way. The other is go on Fish and Wildlife webpage. There's everything you need to know in there.
Okay.
Other than personal feelings, everything else is there.
Right. All right. Well, thank you so much. So that wraps up another episode of the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge. A big thank you to Butch Spear for sharing his bear expertise, and to Gary Moore and Mark Breen for their regular contributions. If you missed any part of today's show or just want to listen again, you can find this episode on demand starting tomorrow at WYKR.com or on the WYKR app or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget, starting this month, we're back to our fall and winter schedule with new episodes airing the first and Thursdays of each month until at 6 p.m. Until then, stay safe, enjoy the outdoors, and we'll catch you down the trail.
WTWN Wells River, W286DE Wells River.
Serving Northeast Vermont and Northwest New Hampshire since 1976. WYKR, Haverhill. It's 7 o'clock.